Folks, welcome into the SBR Betting Roundtable alongside Ian Cameron, Jeff Nadeau, Donnie Rightside. I am Drew Martin. We're going to be hitting on all kinds of things. NFL playoffs. We got college basketball, also some Canadian sports to get into. Let's get right around the horn and get into a big SBR Betting Roundtable day here. Ian Cameron, find him on Twitter at Babano. Ian, welcome to the show. How you doing today, buddy?
Yeah, doing good, Drew. Unfortunately, we have to bid adios to college football. That season wrapping up Monday night with a thrilling overtime national championship game, Alabama taking care of business. But we got the NFL. This is when the playoffs get good. Divisional round. The best of the best are in the mix now. Get Minnesota's and New England's and Philadelphia's and all these teams in there and see what they're made of as they join the playoff fray. College basketball heating up, conference season now underway. It's still a great time of year. We're getting closer to March Madness. I can't wait for that. I know Big Man can't wait for that. I know you guys can't wait for that. Should be a lot of fun the next few months.
Yeah, college basketball getting in full swing, and nobody better at it than Jeff Nadeau. Big man on campus. Find him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Drew. Always looking forward to the roundtable. Should be fun.
Yeah, and his partner in crime all over SBR, Donnie Rightside. Find him on Twitter at RightSideVP. Donnie, Mr. NFL, welcome in, buddy.
Yeah, hide the women and children this weekend because the big boys are coming out to feast this week. It's always one of my favorite seasons. And again, betting the wild card round to the divisional round, a little bit different. You have a lot of rested and ready teams and better teams that are going to be playing on the home docket this week. A lot of fun. And you're right, NCAA football now over for the season. Before you know it, it'll be back here in August. But nice way to end the season there with that Alabama tilt versus Georgia. A lot of fun for everybody. Good to be here this week. Let's have some fun, fellas.
Absolutely, Donnie. Well said. Yeah, national championship actually turned out to be a great game. We got the NFL playoffs starting at the top. Donnie brings up the fact the home teams having to lay some wood, but we'll start off with the first game on the docket, 301-302. Atlanta Falcons, Philadelphia Eagles, right in your neck of the woods, both Donnie and Jeff. Looks like this is the one game, though, where the away teams laying the wood. Looks like 2.5 at 5 dimes plus juice, 3 pretty much everywhere across the board on SBR odds right now. 41.5 the total. Come right back at you, Donnie. Lead us off in the NFL. How you looking to bet Falcons Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, everybody knows the case in point here, as I like to say. No number one seed has been underdogs to a 6 seed since the formality started. I believe, was it back in 91, 92 with the bye weeks that they put in. It'll be interesting in Philadelphia. The one thing that you're always hoping for when you get a dome team outdoors is some bad weather. But, styles change, fights change here. If you're looking at the Philadelphia Eagles, if they did have Carson Wentz, most people in the Northeast would be cheering for like a 15 to 20 degree day with blustery winds because Carson Wentz has mobility with his legs and a howitzer arm. But that's no longer the case. We saw in cold weather conditions with the Oakland Raiders football game how, I want to say how well Nick Foles plays, how bad Nick Foles played versus the Oakland Raiders in some cold conditions. Same thing on that first 2 drives versus the Dallas Cowboys. Another cold, windy condition day. Didn't look too good starting out there, but there is a little bit of a reprieve here in the Northeast. Looks like around game time will be 45 degrees with light winds. By the time the fourth quarter comes around, it will dip into the 30s. So not icy conditions there, which typically you would love with an Atlanta team coming up from a dome team, built to play on the carpet. Now you're going to come outside and play in grass. It will be a hostile atmosphere out there, but if you're just looking to bet a side in this football game, the way the wild card round played out, can you fault just taking the better quarterback in each one of these divisional round games? I can't fault you if you're going to do that because the disparagement with starts of veteran quarterbacks that are used to playing the playoffs versus rookies, a la like a Case Keenum or even Nick Foles, who has been there but only has 1 start under his belt there in Philadelphia and in the playoffs. So it should be interesting, but normally looking in the Northeast, you want cold conditions for the dome team. The Philadelphia Eagles actually happy that this game is going to be played in the mid-40s here.
Yeah, and Donnie, just to follow up on that, I mean, do you factor in the fact Matt Ryan, I mean, he is on a dome team, but he's obviously from Boston College. I believe he's from the Northeast somewhere. Would you factor that into the handicap?
Yeah, well, he's from the Philadelphia area, but he is 1-3 playing in Philadelphia. I don't know, it's different teams out there, but last year the Eagles did beat the Atlanta Falcons, who went to the Super Bowl, and the Eagles didn't even make the playoffs. So this game's going to be played on the defensive side of the football. Can the Eagles slow it down, run the football? They're rested and ready. The one thing you also have to like about the divisional round football game is the Eagles sat back last week and were able to break down tape on potential opponents, as opposed to Atlanta having to just focus on the Los Angeles Rams. All 4 of these teams with a bye week have that significant advantage to get rest rested and ready. They should not be, holding anything back at kickoff. Everything should be scouted, ready to go. Should be a good football game in Philadelphia this weekend.
All right. And Jeff, what about you, man? How you looking to bet Falcons or your Eagles?
I'm not looking to bet the Eagles, put it that way. I mean, listen, we live in this era, Donnie and I. We hear all these people in the radio talking about, oh, the defense is going to play well, blah, 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 blah. I mean, they probably will, but again, they have to score as well. And Nick Foles over the last 2 games is 23 for 49. That's 47% completion. That's just not good enough. I know one of the games it really didn't matter much, but he didn't give you much a reason to think. I mean, that game against the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, he only threw the ball 11 times, but he wanted to see something out of him. You want to see him go down and move the football and score a touchdown or something. And he wasn't able to do that. And then in the game against Oakland, he was all over the place. I think there is a good point made by Donnie that the weather will be better. It'll be in the 40s, which will help. But I'm really disappointed. Nick Foles thought he'd give a better performance coming in here for Carson Wentz, and he just seemingly hasn't. That's a concern. There's a reason they're an underdog, and it's because it's Nick Foles. I'm not looking to back Nick Foles here. I don't care that it's a playoff game. I don't care that it's at home. I think Donnie will agree with me. That's a great home field, but it's not what it used to be. They'll be there. People will be hype and boisterous. Donnie and I will both be in the building, but I can't say I feel good about it. I'm probably not going to bet the game, but if I had to do it, I wouldn't be betting on the Eagles.
All right, and Ian, with Jeff and Donnie in the building, be looking out for them on TV. But are you going to lay it here with the Dome team in the Northeast?
This is tricky because to me, I was obviously impressed with Atlanta, and Atlanta got the better of me last week because I liked the LA Rams against them. And they played, and I didn't think their defense was capable of what I saw last week. I mean, they were giving Jared Goff fits. They got the pass rush and pressure that they needed. They had a game plan to neutralize Todd Gurley, and they were able to do that. I mean, they took him completely out of that football game, made him a non-factor. So you got to give the Atlanta Falcons and their defensive coaching staff credit for that. That was Matt Ryan and the offense was good. They scored when they had to. They capitalized on some opportunities, some breaks that went their way. Remember that fumble early in the football game that gave the Atlanta Falcons the ball in the red zone immediately starting that drive. They took advantage of some things. They did enough offensively, but it was their defense that really I walked away from that game most impressed with from this Atlanta Falcons team. That's a concern for me for Philadelphia with Nick Foles at the quarterback spot. Jeff threw out the numbers. He's been dreadful the last 2 games from a completion percentage standpoint. Not good enough. You're not going to be able to get away with 47% completions in this football game and win. That's all there is to it. He's got to find a way to make more completions, be more accurate with the football, set his feet, don't rush things. And of course, that goes part and parcel with an offensive line that's going to have to do the job and protect adequately for Nick Foles in this game. The problem I have with backing Atlanta, even though I'm reluctant to go against them, this is a team maybe playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder after having the choke of all time in the Super Bowl last year against the New England Patriots, looking to make amends for that this year. I just don't know if this is the right price range. I mean, this is now Atlanta laying a full field goal in most locations now against still a team, it's the number 1 NFC seed, playing at home. I mean, that's just something you don't see very often. So while I don't want the Philadelphia side, I don't love them that much. This to me is not a bargain-filled price range in my mind to step in with a bet on Atlanta here in this game. And let's not forget, guys, Philadelphia I think is aware of this point spread. I think they are. I'm pretty sure they are. You can't tell me they're not aware of the fact that they're home underdogs in this game as a number 1 NFC seed. So, and that's probably a little bit disrespectful to them, whether Wentz is here or not. And we'll see if that brings an extra little chip to the shoulders of the Eagles here going into this game.
And according to, I'm sure Donnie saw this, according to various reporters in Philadelphia, they've plastered it all over the workout complex there that they're underdogs. So they definitely know. And guys, it's important to note, if the Philadelphia Eagles can, and I've told Donnie this same stat, the Atlanta Falcons this year are 11-0 when they score 20 or more points. When they don't score 20 points or less, they're 0-5. So if the Eagles can find a way to hold them under 20 points, they're going to have a good shot to win the football game. The concern, I got to be honest, the under kind of looks good to me here. I think for some reason we're going to see a lot of punts in this game. Nick Foles will have some trouble early. Matt Ryan might be a little shaky early on. But it's a tough game for me as a fan. I obviously want to see the Eagles win and all that, but it's hard to trust Nick Foles. Hopefully he comes out and plays real well. But if they could keep them under 20 points, they're going to have a shot, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, building off of that point there's no better defense in the NFL than the Philadelphia Eagles at home. 13 points per game, that bodes well. And if Jeff's talking about they might be leaning towards an under in this one, if this game stays under, the Eagles win the football game outright. There's no question about it, because that means the Eagles will be able to control the clock, run the football, and lean on that defense, rested and ready. The one thing that you want to be a little bit leery about was when you saw the Philadelphia Eagles play the Seattle Seahawks is there's a mobile quarterback. Matt Ryan's a statue back there. What better defensive line to get after a statue than what the Eagles have up front? Timmy Jernigan rested and ready. Fletcher Cox rested and ready. You saw last week Aaron Donald absolutely single-handedly maul that front line. Is Fletcher Cox Aaron Donald? No. But is there any other better defensive tackle that you want than Fletcher Cox to play that same type of game plan? This front seven will be able to get after Atlanta. It's all about managing tempo out there, moving the chains, first downs, and Nick Foles just not to hurt this team. But there's no better team, even in the NFL at home right now, outside the New England Patriots than the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's not forget this year. They went 7-0 at home before playing the Dallas Cowboys, played all backups on defense, and only allowed 6 points to the Dallas Cowboys, who won 9 games, were a few plays away from making the playoffs. This defense is rested, ready, and really good, and they're going to lean on that.
And that's a good point. The Rams did collapse the pocket more than once, on frequent occasions last week against the Atlanta Falcons. That was not an Atlanta up and down the field all game long against the LA defense last week. LA got pressure. What LA's problem was, they couldn't finish drives. They got stopped. As soon as they got into Atlanta territory, it seemed like they had to punt. That's when that fourth down came up. We just weren't able to get into the scoring range often enough against that Atlanta team. There was pocket collapsing multiple times around Matt Ryan last week, and you brought up Jernigan and Cox. For a guy like Fletcher Cox, who's been in the league a long time and is a veteran, an older guy, getting this extra rest time, that's going to recharge that battery, recharge that motor. So I'm interested to see how he, in particular, Fletcher Cox, is revitalized, reinvigorated by the bye week, and just maybe given that extra little bit of a boost and energy from a pass rush perspective. The Eagles are going to be relying on him big time to get after Matt Ryan in this game.
Yeah, guys, we got James, Brady, Vitalius, Armin, Sean, all in the chat box, pretty much agreeing with what you were saying, Jeff and Donnie and Ian, as far as Philly's front four really getting after it, pretty nasty up front. Guys, 303-304, we got Tennessee, New England. We all saw Marcus Mariota, the former Duck, the former Hawaiian, actually, I guess the Hawaiian, really just be a beast last week. Having to go into New England now, kind of a different animal. 47 the total, looks like 13 and a half, even a 14 at Bovada, obviously catering more towards the public better there at Bovada. But Jeff, let's start off with you. How are you looking to bet Tennessee, New England here?
This is an interesting one because obviously, Tom Brady's Tom Brady, Bill Belichick's Bill Belichick, but you got to wonder, will this off the field stuff ever kind of leak into what New England's doing? I mean, it's obviously pretty explosive. There's a lot of details and things coming out about it. Will Belichick even be there next year? I mean, a lot of weird things coming out. And Tennessee coming in off the momentum. Again, a lot of that had to do with Kansas City losing that game. Did Tennessee win? Kansas City really was just inept in the second half. I mean, the play calling was bad, and that's what Andy Reid does. He blows playoff games seemingly anymore. I'm not sure. It clearly won't be easy. And again, you could get a Tom Brady come out here and he's on fire. He throws 6 touchdowns because he's annoyed. That's the kind of guy Tom Brady is. I'll probably look over in this game. Tennessee obviously has had a shaky pass defense all year. I could see Tom really picking them apart. I still, guys, don't trust New England on defense. I still think they could be scored on. I think if Tennessee could score 14, 17 points, I think this game will get up and over. I could see it 34-17-ish. I think that's kind of what we all think it'll be. Tennessee's a nice story. I made the case that coming into playoffs, they were the weakest team. Again, not another game I'm not in love with, but I would lean over in this game. I definitely could see it getting a 50. I think Tom and the Patriots are good for 34. It seems like every game.
Yeah, Ian, let's go to you next. We also have Conrado in the chat box saying, that back door may be open. Could you see that in this game?
That back door could be open. I mean, when you look at laying 13, the problem is I've had a couple bets this season against New England in this price range, and I don't think I cashed either one. So from a side perspective, it's tough. And you're talking about from a coaching perspective, the greatest coach in the NFL? He's right there. Him and Zimmer to me, Belichick, Hoodie, as I like to call him, Hoodie and Zimmer to me, they're 1A, 1B in terms of coaches I would want as my head coach of an NFL football team. You got him against Malarkey. Come on, that is a complete and utter mismatch. I don't care what you call what you say. That's a huge coaching edge in New England's favor in this game. Now, I heard people last night on Gabe's show in the chat saying weather concerns here in Foxborough Saturday night. Check the weather, guys, because you're not quite accurate with that. Make sure you're checking the hourly forecasts, the morning, afternoon, evening forecasts. Know when the game is, know what forecast you're looking at, what time of day. Saturday night in Foxborough, latest forecast to me is partly cloudy, 8-mile-per-hour winds. Looks like it's going to be a fine weather night for football in January here in Foxborough. And I'm completely in agreement with Big Man's thought on the over in this game. New England's going to put up 30-plus on this Tennessee defense. Did you see the Titans' defense last week until Travis Kelce got hurt? That was up and down the field for Kansas City's offense. Up and down. They had no answers, none, zero. That Titans defense against Kansas City until Kelce got hurt. Then Kansas City couldn't do anything. Because why? Because Kelce, is 80-90% of what they do on offense. That's why. And then that made it easier for Tennessee to defend. But with Kelce in there, they couldn't get a stop, that Titans defense. And I don't trust them to get a stop here against Brady and this offense. I know people are saying, the dissension, is there some bickering going on? Is there a falling out going on? That's a media narrative, public perception thing. And if you bet against the media narrative and the public perception in the NFL, you usually make out pretty good for yourself. So I'm not expecting that to be any sort of factor in this game. New England's going to be fine. They're going to be able to move the ball against a defense I don't trust. But I think Tennessee's not going to be totally inept or incapable offensively in this game either. Derrick Henry ran the football very well for the Titans last week, and New England's susceptible to the power ground game, the running attack, where you power right up the middle against New England's defense. You're going to have some success. I think Tennessee will have success running the football with Henry, keep Marcus Mariota in manageable down and distance situations, and allow them to be a little bit more of an effective and efficient offense in this game against a New England defense that, like Jeff said, and I agree, similar concerns I have. I don't think they're an okay defense. They can be a good defense at times. I don't think they're a complete shutdown, lockdown defense. I think Tennessee might prove that here. So, yeah, over 47, to me, that makes a lot of sense in this football game.
All right, Ian. I just pulled up the kind of the Boston weather here real quick for Saturday, and it looks like scattered showers, 12 degrees Celsius, what the fuck is that? 53 Fahrenheit, looks like 19-mile-an-hour winds. But Donnie, what are you getting for the weather there?
Drew, just a second. You got to check Foxborough. Yeah. Foxborough, Massachusetts. That's what I'm looking at. Foxborough. Boston's going to be a little bit different. So it will, but Foxborough, it's big. You got to go right where the stadium's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
okay.
Partly cloudy, 10% chance of rain Saturday night. 8-mile-per-hour winds right now is what I'm seeing for Foxborough, Mass. So maybe it's going to be just one of those weird nights where, often Boston and Foxborough are going to have very similar weather, no question. But this could be one of those nights where there's a system going through. It's going to swipe the Boston area, may not swipe the Foxborough area where Gillette Stadium is. So something to keep in mind. But, obviously, and that's a good point why, with us talking about weather here, these outdoor games in January in the NFL, you got to be on top of the forecast. You got to know what's going on, wind, precipitation, all that stuff. Very important, especially if you're betting totals.
No, great point, Ian. It's very important to stay on top of it. Also, know your geography. How far is Foxborough from Boston? Thank you for the update, Ian. Donnie, what do you got on this game?
Yeah, no, it's probably the one that I'm least leaning towards, like betting and actually going over. But I did cap the football game. If you're going to give me 13.5 right now, sometimes it is about the number. Maybe if you can get minus 13.5 at sportsbook.com, minus 115, maybe you can get it up to 14 and pay a little bit of juice on that, because I don't see the blowout here. And the reason I say that is you're looking at Tom Brady at home. Should they win the football game? Yeah, they always win the football game. But looking back at some of those playoff games that have those double-digit favorites or supposed to win the football game, it's not about style points anymore, and they know this. And don't get it twisted that New England Patriots aren't seeing this as maybe taking a little bit of breather. Whoo, man, Kansas City came here already in the first game of the season. We better get ready for them. Oh, my goodness, Tennessee's going to come in here. 14-point favorites, let's just go out and win the football game because they know the big test is coming next week when the Steelers, if they win that football game, are going to come up to Foxborough, and that's the game that everybody wants to see. Styles make fights. This is a good one for the Tennessee perspective because if you're looking at New England's defense, do they have a good secondary? Absolutely they do. Does Tennessee have a great passing game? Not really. Have a good tight end over the middle. But the one thing you know is going to happen in this football game, there is a power running game for Tennessee. Tennessee has a very good offensive line. Tennessee has a mobile quarterback back there. If Marcus Mariota plays this game smart, simple, what I mean by that is being efficient. 7-yard plays, 8-yard plays. You don't have to make that big play. Just don't make the turnover. He's going to have an eternity back there in the pocket to pass versus New England. And also, PSA out there, DeMarco Murray, I know your leg hurts. Stay the hell out of this football game. Tennessee is a much better offense when you are not running the football, running sideways, running a 9-flat 40 out there. Stay out, let Derrick Henry heat, because the one thing you can do against this New England football team is you're going to get time to pass, and you can have a power running game, as Ian said. If you're going to give me, or if I can get 14 points in this football game with a team that can't rush the passer and struggles against the run, I'll lean on that right now because New England doesn't care. New England's not pressing this Bill Belichick. We're going to go 16-0. I'm going to lay down it because I'm mad at everybody in the media, and we're going to blow you out in the fourth quarter. New England knows survive and advance in the playoffs. Give me the double digits in this game. I'll lean on the Titans.
Yeah, quickly, I heard people saying last week, DeMarco Murray, it's a big loss for the Titans. Yeah, it really looked like it was a big loss last week for the Tennessee Titans not having DeMarco Murray in there. Please, give me a break. Didn't miss him one bit. Henry was fine. Henry's the better back. Showed it last week. He's going to be fine. And he's going to do damage in this game. By the way, New England 5-3 to the over this season in 8 home games at Foxborough. So there you go, another stat.
Guys, real quick, just want to go around. Do you think Bill Belichick's the coach next year? And if not, where do you think he is? Donnie, what do you think?
I hear the reports out there, and he's going to leave. What would you leave for? Until Tom Brady leaves, why would you leave? It doesn't matter how many coordinators leave, or if anybody wants to read the tea leaves. Oh my goodness, Patricia's out of there. Josh McDaniels going to leave. Coordinators leave New England all the time. They hug it up after they win the Super Bowl, and Bill Belichick rebuilds that staff because it's Brady and Belichick. Unless you are bringing Brady and Belichick, it's not going to work. Bill O'Brien doesn't work. Josh McDaniels already left. Doesn't work. Romeo Crennel left. Doesn't work. Eric Mangini left. Doesn't work. It doesn't work unless you have Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. They'll both be there in New England. They'll both play in a shoddy AFC East. They'll win 6 games for fun in that division. And next year at this same time on the roundtable, we'll be breaking down the New England Patriots as the #1 overall seed in the AFC again.
Jeff, any differing opinion there?
I could see it. I mean, obviously they have some issues up there. Tom Brady's a sneaky little fuck. I mean, he obviously is, heads roll up there when he wants something done, and he sees what happened. He's obviously not happy with Belichick. I don't know if he'll leave. I'm sure they'll talk it out like men, and everything will be fine. But I don't know. I don't think it's as easy, but I'm not as sure as Donnie, but I'm sure he'll be there. I mean, the fucking Patriots seems like they're never going to lose. So, I would say probably, yeah.
And Babana, what about you? Anything real quick on Bill Belichick?
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as Brady can still throw the football accurately and adequately and avoids injury, they're going to be a factor, no question. I don't know about #1 seed. I think at some point there's going to be a mini decline, but they're going to be a playoff team again next year if Brady and Belichick are there. Probably win the AFC East. It's just because that division is just, you got the Jets who stink. Miami's no good. Buffalo, okay, decent season this year, but they're nothing you're scared about. So from that standpoint, it's Patriots division probably in a walkover all over again. #1 seed in the AFC next year again, we'll see. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be any significant decline next year if they're both back.
All right, guys, on to the Sunday NFL playoff card. We got 305, 306, Jacksonville, Pittsburgh. Looks like we got 40.5 the total, 7.5 at most shops. But make sure to shop around if you're going to bet this one because we got 7 at Bookmaker and 7 at Intertops. We all know the key number of 7 here, so that extra hook could matter either way when you're looking to bet this one. Ian, let's start off with you this time. Jacksonville, Pittsburgh. How you looking to bet it, bud?
You know what? I'm leaning very much with the Pittsburgh side in this game just because of what I saw last week. But now that it's 7.5 across the board, there's still something about betting into this Jacksonville defense at that kind of number. That's the concern I have. But I will say this flat out right now. I have not seen in a long time in the playoffs a more inept performance from an offense than the Jags last week. If not for Blake Bortles running, that team would have done absolutely nothing on the offensive side of the football last week against the Buffalo Bills. Really. And Buffalo's got an okay defense, but I've seen teams run the ball. I've seen teams move the ball at times, and at times throw like a hot knife through butter against Buffalo's defense. You're not dealing with the 85 Bears here if you're Jacksonville offensively going up against Buffalo last week. And to see them just be so inept, so poor, and I think here's another genius play caller who thinks he knows what he's doing when really he does not, and that's Nate Hackett for the Jags, another terrible offensive coordinator as far as I'm concerned. It was a brutal job last week for him. But as far as I'm concerned, Jacksonville's offense is a big concern. And Pittsburgh's going to see the tape. You're going to look at that tape last week and say, hey, Blake Bortles, what did they do? They ran Blake Bortles time and time again. That's all they had. Blake Bortles couldn't complete a forward pass. Blake Bortles couldn't complete an easy little throw into the flat on a screen pass time and time again. Missed those easy throws that any quarterback in the NFL should be able to make. If you're Pittsburgh, you go into this game and say, we stop him from running, we're fine. Because Leonard Fournette didn't get things going last week. I don't know what his deal is, but he's been not running as well as we expected him to down the stretch late in the season. Jackson, he couldn't make a pass or complete a pass, Blake Bortles. Where's the offense going to come from in this football game? That's the concern. But Jacksonville's defense is, on the flip side, good enough to keep Jacksonville in this game and maybe even win it still. That is how good Jacksonville's defense played last week. So that is the concern. But you've got Pittsburgh now in a situation where Jacksonville beat them in the regular season again in Pittsburgh too. Ben Roethlisberger, one of his worst performances ever. What did he have? 4 or 5 interceptions in that game. He was terrible. I think there's going to be a situation here where Pittsburgh corrects it. Antonio Brown's going to be in there. He's playing in this football game. They're going to test this Jacksonville defense way more than an extremely limited Buffalo offense did last week. And let's keep in mind, Buffalo did move the ball. In that first half, they moved the ball. It's just they stubbed their toe. Yeah, you're inexplicably throwing the ball on 1st and goal at the 1-yard line when you have a chance to score a touchdown. Stupid little things like that kept Buffalo from maybe putting up more points than they could or maybe even should have. I'm just not looking to make a case here for Jacksonville. I think the number's a little bit rich now, but from my standpoint, it's Steelers or pass.
And Jeff, how are you looking to bet Jags Steelers?
Yeah, I wanted to address something Ian said. We have to stop with the narrative that Buffalo is a good defense. No, they're not. They're 26th in the league in defense. And that was the narrative pushed last week by Gabriel Morency and other people. They're not a good defense. Let's stop with that. They couldn't move the ball at all. They made them look like a top-level defense, which they aren't. Blake Bortles stinks. Okay, let's get to the realization. They're going to stack the box, make him beat them, and he can't beat them because the Pittsburgh Steelers have a pretty damn good pass defense. I don't think they're going to move the ball at all in this game. I don't think they're going to be – obviously, he's not going to throw 5 interceptions. That was a mirage in that game against Pittsburgh in week 4 or wherever it was. I just think we see a much more sound performance out of Pittsburgh here. They're at home. This is where Ben generally thrives in his career. Listen, we're setting up for New England, Pittsburgh. Let's be real here, people. I think Jacksonville will go out with a whimper here. Jacksonville has struggled over the last 4 or 5 weeks. And that's something that me and Gabe talked about, I believe, last week, about how Jacksonville really has kind of fluttered. When Leonard Fournette hasn't been effective or they haven't been able to run the ball, they've struggled because you don't want to put the ball in the hands of Blake Bortles. Just you try to get him to not have to do as much. It'll kind of be like how the Eagles will approach the game. They don't want Nick Foles to have to try to do too much. Same with Blake Bortles. If not for his spurts out of the backfield at times last week, Ian's right. They probably don't score. And that's against a bad defense. I just don't see it with Jacksonville. I think you can screen them to death on defense. And I'm pretty sure Mike Tomlin will be ready for that. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. I think they win by double digits in this game and get some real revenge when it matters.
Donnie, you laying it with the Steelers? I mean, depending on what number you got them at all year, they were 7-9 against the number, right?
This is an interesting game because I actually think the fact that the Jacksonville Jaguars have been struggling lately on offense is going to play right into Jacksonville's hands in this game, if that makes sense. Because I think Pittsburgh's motive coming into this football game is going, look, we know they have a sick defense. And let's not get it twisted. Back early in the season, Jacksonville went into Pittsburgh and beat the brakes off of Pittsburgh. 5 interceptions by Big Ben. And also, if you're looking from a betting perspective, something next week, let's just say New England does win. You can't ask for a better matchup for the New England Patriots than the Jacksonville Jaguars in cold weather roughing up that Steelers offense. Whether or not the Steelers win or not, I do think they win the football game, but this is going to be a physical game. The one key thing I want to keep an eye on is Jacksonville Jaguars. Early in that football game, if you remember, Paul Posluszny, the middle linebacker, heart and soul of that defense in the middle, left. And then all of a sudden you saw Shady McCoy getting some runs. Buffalo moving the football after that interception. It was interesting to watch. I'm going to watch his practice reports as it comes back this week, but everybody bringing up the Blake Bortles case, and I do agree. There's one football game on the road versus the Colts, people. The Colts, where he threw for over 300 yards. Let's take a look at his road game passing percentages out there. At Houston, 125. At the New York Jets, 136. Now, we did have that game at the Jacksonville Jaguars, at the Colts at 3:30. But just before that, the Pittsburgh Steelers, which they won easily in that game. Bortles threw for 82 yards in that football game. At Cleveland, 145. At Arizona, 128. At San Francisco, they did throw for 380 in a shootout versus Jimmy G. But after that, at Tennessee, 146. And we saw last week an embarrassment in the air. They tried to set him up early in the game with screen passes, easy outs, layups to running backs out of the backfield. He couldn't even compete. The one good thing for Blake Bortles, it will be cold, not the greatest thing, but the winds are supposed to be low in Pittsburgh this weekend. The wind really threw him off. It's just a matter of what you like in this football game. I'm actually looking, even though I like the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, I think they're going to be able to score points. I think Pittsburgh might dial it down a little bit in this game because when you get in the football games and you say, look, I don't think that offense can beat us. Let's not beat ourselves and throw 5 interceptions like we did in the first game around. If you're getting 7.5 right now, I'm leaning towards the Jacksonville Jaguars. Do I think the Steelers win and move on? I do think they win and move on because they're going to be rested, ready, and at home. And Jacksonville's offense has sputtered in the recent weeks. But I think this game actually plays in where you might be able to lull Pittsburgh to sleep by saying, you know what? Let's not throw it all around the field. Let's lean on Le'Veon Bell. Let's shorten the game, which is going to tend to play to a lower scoring game. And when we see lower scoring, even last week in that Buffalo Bills game versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, that 7.5 points is a big number.
Yeah, proved it. Yeah, in that game last week, Bills and Jags. I mean, Jacksonville was laying north of a touchdown, and we didn't get the cover if you were back in the Jags in that game. It's tough to lay more than a touchdown, especially when you get this deep into the playoffs. There's no question. And that's what I'm wrestling with. I know I don't want to back Jacksonville, but 7.5 is not the greatest price in the world to trust Pittsburgh laying. I will say this, Pittsburgh will be on teaser selections for me. Whatever teaser I decide to go ahead with, I will have Pittsburgh in 1 or 2 of them this week, no doubt. That'll be a good teaser play for me, teaser selection, teaser choice this weekend.
Yeah, and again, if Paul Posluszny's out of the football game, I mean, you're going to get – Shady was on one leg and, marginal difference in that football game. But when he left, Shady was able to get some runs up the middle. Le'Veon Bell is rested and ready with a good offensive line in front of him. If they're smart, they will slow this football game down and give it to him 20 to 25 times. And I'm not so sure that the Jacksonville Jaguars were able to stop him without their middle linebackers you saw last week.
Guys, let's go on to 307, 308. We got the last game here, and then we're going to hit on some 60 seconds with Cameron. I think he's going towards the CFL, Johnny football, and we got college basketball headlined with Big Man on Campus. And if you're liking the content here, please give us the thumbs up button, the like button on your screen. 307, 308, we got New Orleans, Minnesota, 45.5 the total. Looks like -4 all the way across the board, so not a lot of opinion from the other side of the counter on SBR odds right now. Jeff, lead us off. How you looking to bet New Orleans, Minnesota, man?
Yeah, this is a fascinating game. I mean, obviously, Donnie and I talked about, yesterday how Minnesota at this point is kind of a bit of a house cat, and they like to play inside. They've been outdoor, out of the outdoors for a while. I related it, guys, to kind of Drew. You don't really deal with this too often, but up here in the north, we deal with it all the time. It's kind of similar to like going out and shoveling out your car. You're all cold, and then you come in and your mom cooks you breakfast, and you're thinking, "Wow, I really don't want to go back outside. It's pretty nice in here." And you really have to kind of will your way to go back outside. Now the fact that Minnesota's back indoors, a real nice thing here, and it'll hurt. It'll be big for for New Orleans as well. Obviously, they play in the dome, but it's on the road, and the Vikings have been so stingy on defense. It's hard to shut down the Saints. But we saw last week the blueprint kind of to shut down their run game. They weren't really They weren't great, and that, Donnie and I watched the game together last week. They weren't able to move the ball really too well through the ground. At least Drew Brees will be great, but now you're facing a much tougher pass defense here. Carolina doesn't have much on that level. Vikings do, and you look at the Vikings. I mean, not only are they stingy at not giving up points, but they're only giving up about 275 yards a game. That's pretty unbelievable. I'll go with, to me, the better defense. They're at home. I think this is a kind of a more lower scoring game. I think 45 and a half is a pretty decent number. I think it's like a 24-17 type of game. It'll be pretty. I think it's pretty low scoring, frankly. I don't trust Case Keenum. I think the Saints defense is better than we all think. Their secondary played pretty well last week. For the record, I'll go under the total. I think it's 24-17, 24-20-ish. I'll go under.
Donnie, want to come to you, get your opinion on New Orleans, Minnesota, but also ask you about kind of the profile of the team getting the week off versus the team that just had to play last week. How much of an advantage is it for the team that got the week off, if any advantage at all?
No, I mean, it's huge. It's an unbelievable advantage because at this time of the year, when you're looking at teams like New Orleans, you're looking at, the Rams who were rested last week. But when you're looking at teams having to play down the stretch in playoff mode already, Carolina was already in playoff mode. New Orleans is already in playoff mode. Whoever's coming to town here, the Minnesota Vikings sort of had it wrapped up saying, you know what? Worst case scenario, we're going to get the 2 seed. We might be able to sneak ahead of the Eagles to get the 1 seed. But it's about having a competent coaching staff, which usually when you're in the top 2 seeds, you have it. Is there any better coordinator or schemer of a defense than Mike Zimmer out there? And he's sitting back because you're looking at these football games going, we're probably going to get either the Rams and we're probably going to get either the New Orleans Saints. They're sitting back. When you saw Saturday night, the minute that the Rams went down and Atlanta moved on to Philadelphia, they already have their game plans out, cut and tape, getting ready to go, while New Orleans is still in a battle for their life right down to the wire versus the Carolina Panthers. This team plays really well at home. This team handled the New Orleans Saints already at home early in the season. But when you're looking at this game and you're capping it overall, I know people get caught up in the same things. You look at Drew Brees. You watched him last week. Everybody watched it. Slicing up that Carolina defense. Now, the way to beat Carolina, as we all know, they have a very good and fast front seven, but a little bit shaky in the secondary. All those wide open patterns over the middle, all those deep routes that you have. Welcome to the jungle when you're going to hit the Minnesota Vikings this weekend. A top 3 cornerback in Xavier Rhodes. They're going to plan him on Michael Thomas and say, good luck beating you. It's me and you one-on-one in this football game. So say, all right, let's go elsewhere. Harrison Smith is the single best safety in the entire National Football League, roaming the secondary back there. So you say, okay, let's get the ground game going. One of the most athletic linebacking cores in the NFL is for the Minnesota Vikings, and then a front 4 that can get after the pass rusher. Also, last week you saw in the football game, which it makes me kind of laugh out here with Andreas Pete listed as doubtful for the football game for the Saints. I know it's tough, and I know a college kid played on a torn ACL, but when your fibula is snapped in half, you're probably not going to come out and start at tackle this weekend. They're already down a man, already through attrition. The defense seems like it's losing starters each week. Thielen on the outside, a very good wide receiver. We all know Stephon Diggs can get deep. Every level they have covered. But I know some people are still going to hold out hope out there to say Drew Brees, he always does it. He's in a dome. I think they're going to be able to win this football game. The rested and ready team with one of the best defensive minds in football in Mike Zimmer, with the best overall defense to me in football. I'll lean on that at home, and I don't think they're getting a lot of respect. That line opened up at 3.5 for the number 2 seed at home coming in versus the Saints. I know Case Keenum hasn't been there before, but I'll lean on that defense to bring the wood against Drew Brees this weekend.
Boom. Well said, Donnie. Anything else, Ian?
I got to completely agree with Donnie. I'm leaning Minnesota here, and that's the way I'm backing it, -4 if I'm betting this game. Look, you look at New Orleans last week. I'll give you this. Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram duo. 45 rushing yards on 19 attempts. That's a paltry, piddly 2.3 yards per carry. If you're going to bring that kind of ground attack with you to Minnesota against this defense on the road in that hostile environment with that loud, insane, boisterous crowd, you're in trouble if you're the New Orleans Saints. If you're bringing that kind of paltry run game to the party, because I know Drew Brees played well. Give Drew Brees credit; he played fantastic. But Carolina's defense at home is not Minnesota's defense on the road. It's just not. Xavier Rhodes on Michael Thomas. And if Michael Thomas is taken away by Xavier Rhodes, one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL, where do you go with the football throwing it if you're Drew Brees? If you can't run it, if Thomas is taken away, taken out of the equation, where do you go? Ted Ginn Jr. and his one drop a game? Oh, he had a good touchdown last week, but he's also good for a drop or two sometimes. Where do you go, Hill? Where do you go, Willie Snead and his one catch every 4 games? Where do you go? I mean, from a receiving standpoint. I mean, that's the problem here. There's got to be other targets, and they rely so much on Michael Thomas, and if he's taken away, that's a problem. And if they can't run the football any one lick better than they did last week against Carolina with Ingram and Kamara, that's a problem. Where does the offense move the football in this game if all of that comes to fruition? And from the way I'm looking at this game, handicapping it, I'm concerned that could come to fruition if they can't run it again like they didn't last week. If Thomas is taken out of the game, where does the Saints go? Where do the Saints go for points? Where do the Saints go to move the football on the road against this defense, which has given up 12.5 points per game at home this year? Yeah, that's tough for me to trust. Now the flip side is we trust Case Keenum, and I understand that. It's my biggest fear, and believe me, in the pit of my stomach, I'm saying watch Case Keenum have 4 interceptions, give the game away. Just all of a sudden turn into a pumpkin here, despite the fact he's playing on a team that has a tremendous defense. That's a pit of my gut fear that I have. But I'm going to look past that. I'm going to trust this Minnesota team to put him in situations here to succeed, to be able to at least run the football well enough, keep the down and distance manageable here for Case Keenum. And let's be honest, this Saints defense is nothing to write home about right now. This Saints defense has Kenny Vaccaro out in the secondary. A.J. Klein is a huge injury in the linebacking core for the New Orleans Saints. Huge. Hasn't been the same in that position either since A.J. Klein went down. The defensive line also as a key member out. So there are key injuries on all 3 levels of this Saints defense. So there is opportunities here for Keenum in this Vikings offense. So for me at -4, and I trust Zimmer. He's a great coach. Give him time with the bye week, the extra time. No one I'd rather trust than Mike Zimmer. Only way I could look here, Minnesota -4.
Donnie, any closing thoughts on betting the NFL here before we move on to college basketball?
Yeah, always, the NFL, as we like to say, even in the playoffs, folks, is week to week. No matter which game you're betting, that team is never as bad or never as good as they seem. If you're looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars and saying, my goodness, that was atrocious, yes, it was. But there's a reason why they won, and they're still going to move on. Each game holds another type of value that you're going to want to look for. Keep in mind, again, don't let those eyes play tricks on you out there.
That preaching there from Mr. Right Side. Hey, let's go to at Barbano, 60 seconds of Ian Cameron. We got CFL action, I'm guessing, Ian. Mr. Johnny Football. We all saw him down here in Costa Rica. Actually looked pretty athletic, looked pretty good, like he had his mind right. But is he worth the highest paid player in the CFL coming in?
Yeah, he might have his mind right, but his agent's a jackass. A complete fucktard as far as I'm concerned. Saying that Johnny Manziel deserves $500,000 and a max CFL contract when he's proved absolutely nothing at the CFL level. No experience, no track record, no history in the CFL, a flame-out track record in the NFL. I mean, you've got to come up here and earn your money by the way you play on the field. You're not just going to be given that kind of contract. So there's negotiations going on. That saga is going to continue, him and the Ticats going back and forth, and if they don't come to a deal, they'll trade his rights to some other team. But I'm not sure some other team's going to run it, throwing max money at him with no experience. This is not just you come up here and, it's a rinky-dink CFL. I can succeed. I can be great. No, it's a steep learning curve. It's a totally different playbook, totally different style of football in terms of time, in terms of the type of offense you run. You got to be able to understand that and realize that you got to be able to take time. It takes time to learn the CFL style of game. So we'll see how that develops. But a lot of CFL news. Zach Collaros traded from Hamilton to Saskatchewan. He'll be their new quarterback. Jeremiah Masoli will be the new number 1 quarterback in Hamilton. James Franklin traded to Toronto Argos to back up Ricky Ray. And Mike Sherman, former Green Bay Packer and Texas A&M head coach way back in the day. Mike Sherman, your new head coach of the Montreal Alouettes. So a lot of big CFL offseason news the last month or so.
Donnie, just real quick, man, what are your thoughts on Johnny Manziel? Would you be looking to bet on him or fade him going into the CFL?
No, I mean, how serious is the guy? I mean, we hear all along, like, the same thing with like Colin Kaepernick. Do you think Johnny Manziel, regardless of what he says, is working out really hard and trying to stay in shape? When you step away from the game at any level, at any time in your career, it takes a long time to get back. And I'm sure if he said, you know what, if the Oakland Raiders signed Johnny Manziel, maybe he would get back in gear. But let's be real about this. A little bit of a publicity stunt comes from money. He's really going to go to Canada and put all his time and effort into studying playbooks and learning a new game with new rules. It's a nice thing to read about. He'll get paid a little bit of money. It's not going to go anywhere.
Jeff, any differing opinion on Mr. Johnny Football here? Former Heisman Trophy winner.
I'm not really sure why you are doing this. I agree with Donnie Wright's side. I mean, Johnny Manziel comes from money. He's got a beautiful fiance. He's young, good looking. I mean, why not just go try to make your way in Hollywood? Do something, off the
reality
record.
show.
I mean, you can get rich a lot of ways in this country anymore, and you don't have to get your head bashed in. I don't really understand this. I guess it's probably for Johnny some kind of redemption story. He can go out and tell everyone he made it after he was down in the hatches, getting crushed every weekend, and now he's back to normal. You're not going to be Josh Gordon. It's just not going to happen. I don't know why he keeps pushing this narrative. Go get married. Be your girl's manager and go in to be a C-level actor. I'm sure you could probably be pretty decent as like in some sitcom somewhere. Go right off in the sunset. What do you need to do this for? I don't understand it. But I do think I get his agent's point. He's Johnny Manziel. He's a big name. He's going to sell a lot of tickets. People are going to want to see him. He's kind of the Ball brothers in Canada. He's a traveling circus. People will go buy tickets to watch him play. Why shouldn't he be paid the highest amount of money? On the football field, I think he's worth it. Probably not, but he's going to sell tickets, Ian. That's the truth of the matter.
He absolutely,
he's
he
an
absolutely
exciting
would.
watch.
I will say this too, Drew, about the why is he doing this? From everything I gathered last year in Costa Rica at the IFBC and what he said in interviews, he's still got a desperate passion for playing football. He does. I mean, he really, really, really wants to play football and get back into it. And so he feels that, he's not going to get that opportunity in the NFL until and if he proves himself in the CFL and plays well up here, and then he may get a look again in the NFL. But that's apparently what it is.
Yep. It looks evident that he loves football lately. Looks clear.
Guys, let's hit the CVB hardwood real quick. We got Xavier Villanova, number 10 in the nation versus number 1 in the nation. Looks like Nova laying 9. Bookmakers got 9.5. So does Intertops and Heritage. Looks like we got a total of 165, bought up from 163.5. So some over money coming in the market. BMOC, how you looking to bet this one?
Yeah, I want to let everyone know, by the way, Drew, little shameless plug here. Donnie Wrightside and I will be on live during this game, our featured game of the week. Him and I will be betcasting this game. Xavier Villanova is looking forward to that. Yeah, listen, Drew, I'm not looking to bet against Villanova in this spot. Just not. I think a lot of people will look at this game and say, oh, my God, top 10 matchup. I'm getting 9 points with Xavier. Sign me up. Not so fast, my friend. Over the last 9 games against Xavier, Villanova 8-1, winning by an average of 18 points a game. They own Xavier. They just own Chris Mack. They own that defense that he runs. And you're getting arguably the best offensive team Jay Wright's ever had. This is an extremely efficient basketball team. Jalen Brunson is on Trae Young's level, I think, point guard wise. He's not going to get the love that Young gets because he's a freshman, but Jalen Brunson might be the best player in the country overall. He's absolutely dominant in every situation with the ball. And I've made it the case that I think Villanova is the best overall offense in the league or in the country. Every player 1 to 5 can score, whether they're guarded or not. They have guys off the bench that are going to come in right away and give you high level energy. And if one player's not playing well, there's going to be 4 other ones that can pick it up. Jay Wright just knows how to beat Xavier. I'm just in a scenario like this where it's in Philadelphia, going to be a great crowd down there. Will I bet this game personally? I don't know, but I do want to make people aware of Villanova's absolutely owned Xavier.
Donnie, I know you got an opinion on this one, and you're getting ready for the show tonight. How are you looking to bet it?
First of all, I'm disappointed in Jeff saying he might not bet the game, even though we're going to do a live betcast together. He doesn't know that SportsbookReview.com forces the host to actually have a wager on that basketball game. So I'll press him a little bit later for that. If we take a look at both these teams, two good teams, as Jeff pointed out, they're both against the spread, 12-5 for Xavier and 10-5 versus Villanova. The one thing that's going to be interesting about this game also is Jeff brought up a great point. Jeff, we saw Villanova live. They take care of the basketball. They get good shots. The one thing that Xavier doesn't do is turn you over. And if you're looking at one of the most efficient teams in college basketball, what does that mean? You're going to get extra shots. You're going to be able to rebound the basketball. You're going to be able to look to get wide open three-point shots. No turnovers means more shots, which means more points. And if we look at Villanova's style of play, Jeff, in the last 7 games, every single one of those Villanova games has gone over. If you look at just the last 3 games with Villanova, at least one team, whether it be Villanova or the other team, has reached 100 points. The over-under sitting at 165 right now. Efficient basketball teams with good star power out there might be leaning a little bit towards the over in this one, Jeff.
Yeah, that's
Donnie agree. Agreeing with the move.
You make a real good point there, Donnie. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, is Donnie stealing my thunder? That's the way I'd be betting this game, is up and over the total. I mean, Villanova, everyone lauds them as this great defensive team, and when they're locked in, they are. Hasn't been lately. 90 points per game allowed their last 3 games. Marquette hangs a 90 spot on them. Butler hangs 101 on them in a loss. Butler did that. Yeah, the Butler did that. So, I mean, in this situation here, Villanova, they're not locked in defensively right now. And if they're not locked in defensively here, Xavier's a good offensive team. They can come at them with Trayvon Blewett, J.P. McCurrick, Tyreek Jones, Kareem Canner had a great game last time out for Xavier. There's options offensively to take advantage of this Nova team defensively. But on the flip side, we talk about Villanova offensively. They're a machine right now. I don't know who's going to stop them. Certainly, I don't trust Xavier's defense to do it on the road. Xavier's road defense giving up 76 points per game, 44% shooting, not great numbers there. You got Jalen Brunson's just been all world for Villanova. Mikal Bridges, Phil Booth, goes on and on and on with this Villanova team. There's just too many potent weapons to stop Xavier's defense. Nothing to write home about. I'm staying away from the side. I'm like Jeff. I probably wouldn't want to go against Villanova at home, even though you got to lay 9.5. I think the way I'd look is over 165. I actually do see a 164.5 out there at the Greek. So make sure you're using sbrodds.com and shop around for the best number. But over the total makes sense here.
Jeff, what'd you have in conclusion for Xavier game? And also, what are your thoughts on Temple SMU?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, Villanova, like Donnie said, 8th in the country in turnovers per game committed. Only 10. I mean, that's impressive. But Xavier's talented. We all know that. They have a lot of high-level basketball players. I just think this line is just kind of telling. I mean, but if you can make a case for a team and they're going to stay in a game, the Xavier Musketeers are the team. I mean, they are really good from the foul line. And if they're on this is what's a shame about college basketball, guys. We're so concerned about taking games anymore because I like Villanova in this game, but I'm real concerned that the refs are going to call a lot of fouls and keep Xavier in the basketball game. There's an easy way to stay in a game, guys. Make foul shots. Look at St. Louis last night. St. Louis had no business in that game against Rhode Island. They stayed in it because they made 24 out of 30 free throws. That's why they stayed in the game. They had the free throw advantage. You can stay in a game for free throws. And you're still up in the air on what we're going to see. Teddy Valentin could be the ref tonight, and we could see 54 fouls shots in this game. It's a concern anymore. Quickly on Temple Southern Methodist. I'm not sure how you can honestly go on the road if you're Temple and have any sort of performance here. You throw everything out right now, numbers, team, coach, everything. The Temple Owls just aren't very good right now. They don't score. They're absolutely disastrous lately from the field. And they're playing for a coach who, in my opinion, is a lame duck guy. The city knows it. Everybody at Temple seems to know it. The only people that don't know it are the board of directors here, and they're not getting rid of this guy. Fran Dunphy is out at Temple University. He should be out last year. I don't know what they're keeping him around for. Now you got to take your team on the road to face a team that is 45-1 straight up at their Coliseum over the last 46. SMU doesn't lose at Moody Coliseum. And you look at what they do, they're off a loss, a game that they didn't play well in against Cincinnati. They're going to be out for blood tonight, and the Temple University Owls are dead men walking in this game. They can't make shots right now. They're Their overall court awareness is all over the place. Their head's not in the game right now. They're just not very good. They don't believe in the coach. They don't believe in the direction of the program, and they're losing games that they shouldn't, and they're getting blown out in games that they shouldn't either. Give me SMU. I think they pound a bad Temple team right now. Fran Duffy needs to be fired immediately.
By the way,
Ian,
someone on Twitter.
Ian, yeah, just any quick thoughts on Temple SMU? We got to go quick because of best bets.
Yeah, very quickly, going back to the Nova game, bring on the Whistle Fest. It's Gus Johnson's going to do that game for Fox Sports 1. I mean, we've got to have an exciting finish. Bring on the Pals, going to help you over.
I can turn that down, thank God.
No, looks like I have to turn that up. Yeah.
Fox Sports 1, yeah, exactly, that game. But yeah, Temple SMU, funny thing, someone on Twitter, I'm pretty sure he was a Temple fan and a disgruntled one, called Fran Dunphy Fran Dumbfy. So that's a little harsh if you ask me, but Fran Dunphy's had some good years for them. But apparently Big Man's not the only one souring.
We have to stop that. He's never won anything. He's never done anything in the tournament. They're the 5th winningest program in college basketball because of John Chaney. Okay. He did nice things at LaSalle or at Penn. He did nice things early on at Temple. The truth of the matter is, when he lost out on Jalen Brunson, like Donnie's discussed, just the constant striking outs, the fact that this team doesn't care, I'm pretty irritated. And I have season tickets. I paid this university to go watch this team because I thought they were a nationally top 25 team this year, and it's brutal.
Yeah, not playing out that way, and it's tough for Temple here. I mean, you're going on the road. You're facing this SMU team that is off back-to-back losses. Tulane, a loss on the road. Cincinnati, they get crushed by 20. You don't think SMU is going to be fully focused on this game? I expect them to be fully focused off back-to-back losses. You look at Temple on the road. They got blown out at Georgia. They hung tough against Houston. I'll give them that. But then against UCF on the weekend, I mean, that was just, where was the offense? There's nothing to be had. 17 of 53 shooting, a 60-39 dreadful blowout road loss to Central Florida. Based on the spot with SMU, I think they fired their A game here off back-to-back losses. I could only lay the points with the SMU Mustangs here.
Donnie, what about a college basketball bet on team, man? Who are you looking to bet on college hoops?
Yeah, real quick bet on team. Maybe not game to game, but just a team I think that's going to move up its national profile over the next week to 2 weeks this college basketball season. Ohio State, winners of 8 of 9 games right now. Good upcoming schedule. The next 8 games are all winnable up to their February 7th game versus the Purdue Boilermakers. One of those teams that you want to look at, maybe ranked in the lower top 25. I think they can make a run over the next couple weeks and get into the top 10. Ohio State, maybe a little bit under the radar right now in the Big Ten. I'm going to keep an eye on them.
Yeah, I like that one. And Big Man, do you have a bet on team? And also, you want to just start us off with best bets for tonight?
Yeah, I have plenty of bet on teams. I think I've said it yesterday to you, Drew. I think there's a lot of really good teams in college basketball. There's 20 teams to me right now that can win the national title. Is there one great one? Not sure, which is interesting. I have a quick bet against the Vanderbilt Commodores. They should not be anywhere near a ticket over the next couple weeks. Really at the rest of the season. They are one of the biggest win-loss fraud teams I've ever seen. Their 6 wins are absolutely pathetic. And all the 10 losses are to teams they should lose to. Teams that they shouldn't be favored against or be underdogs to, and they're not covering. And the games that they should be favorites in, they're not covering because the numbers are too high. They're awful against the spread team. You should have no interest in backing them. I found it hard to believe people liked Vandy last night. And look, you could make the case they're at home or whatever, but they shouldn't be near your ticket. As far as my play of the day or my best bet, this is going to be a bet I'm going to make. I'm probably going to send it out here once the show's over. I'm going to go with Southern Methodist tonight. I know Temple in and out. I watch this team. I see the body language. It's just not there for them right now. And Southern Methodist is like Ian said, I think they're going to come out firing here. Last year, 79-65 down there in Dallas. And that was a better Temple team as far as that's concerned. I think SMU rolls in this game. They have the advantage really everywhere. They're a little bit deeper this year. Tim Jankovic's team, after a couple losses, they should really be able to dominate Temple University and make a team that has not shot the ball well. You could see a situation here where Temple could have another game in the 50s here. Southern Methodist is 8th in the country in points per game allowed at 60.8. I got to go nowhere but Southern Methodist tonight.
All right, and we can give you the 10 at bookmaker. Ian, real quick, what's your best bet for tonight?
Best bet. I'm going to go with the over in the Xavier Villanova game. I really am. I like that one. We're going to stick with it. 164.5 is what you can get at the Greek in that game. So we're going to go with that. And I mentioned before why I liked it. I know Villanova's defense usually good. It's not great right now, and they're up against a good offensive team in Xavier, but Xavier's going to score. Or Villanova, I should say, is going to score at will against Xavier here. So I think that game can get over 164.5. And quickly, bet against team. LSU, bet on team for me in college basketball. I've been betting on them a lot this year. Will Wade's done a great job. They're a covering machine. They're an ATS machine, LSU. They continue to get the job done. Bet against, and I live and learn through a losing bet last night with Duquesne. Duquesne feasted on a weak schedule. I thought they could step up against VCU. They got crushed in the second half. Fade Duquesne moving forward. It looks like all they did was feast on patsies when they stepped up in class last night. They couldn't get the job done.
Guys, love the chat box. I can tell you guys are loving the college basketball stuff. Jeff and I are doing a show on Tuesdays called, College Basketball BMOC Bet Buffet. So make sure to tune into that. That's at 3 Eastern. And promise to have more college basketball next week on the roundtable. But Donnie, what do you have for best bets this week, man?
Yeah, we'll keep it in football. We'll go to Sunday's card there, and we'll go 307, 308. That's the New Orleans Saints and the Minnesota Vikings. I just think coming off a bye week, give me the much better defense. Give me the team that dominates at home. Give me the team that already beat this football team up, the New Orleans Saints, early in the season in the same place. New Orleans is coming in. They'd use every ounce of fiber to slip by the Carolina Panthers out there. The Carolina Panthers have a really good front seven, but now they're going to play a football team with a dominant front seven and an even better back end. I don't know how much left in the tank. Drew Brees is a gamer, a Hall of Famer. He's going to be there, but they're going to be able to shut down exactly what New Orleans wants to do. And when this game comes push to shove, the New Orleans defense is going to have to stop the running game of the Minnesota Vikings. I don't think they can. And again, it always gets back to what I preach, you guys. We don't have to cover 14. We don't have to cover 10. We don't have to cover 7. We just have to cover 4. Give me the Minnesota Vikings rested and ready on Sunday at home to win this football game and move on to the NFC title game.
So that's New Orleans -4, right, Donnie?
Minnesota -4, yes.
Okay, we got BMOC on SMU -10 tonight. Ian on the Xavier Nova over 164.5, which you can get at Greek. And I'll follow it up with Georgia Tech +1 versus Notre Dame, fading Notre Dame after the big injury there. Guys, we'll be back next Wednesday for the roundtable. For Jeff, Ian, Donnie, I'm Drew Martin. Thanks for tuning in.
Good luck, everyone. Thanks for watching.